And so now we are recording and on our best behavior, not that we would not be otherwise. Let's go ahead and do introductions. Your name, club, and role either this year or next Rotary year, including if you have a district role. And I'm going to use the Zoom protocol of top left to bottom right. So Bruce, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Bruce Bortner. I'm from the Rotary Club of Albuquerque Del Sol with Jeff. He's also from there. Let's see, what was the second thing you, you just told me, but I wanted to. So I am a past president of my club. I follow Jeff, as a matter of fact. My role in the club right now, I don't really, I'm part of the administrative team that sets up and takes down, you know, and all that stuff back before COVID-19 hit. So I've been vocational chair, membership chair, let's see, besides club president. And then at the district level, I was membership chair for the district back in 2008, 2009 through 2011. Then I picked up the Rotary Leadership Institute, started that for the district in 2011-12 timeframe. And I've been an assistant governor for 4 years. That ended last year. I've been, of course, part of the Rotary Leadership Institute since that time as well. And I was a district trainer for Governor Gary last year.
Yay.
Jack of all trades, master of many.
Yes, of none.
Jeff.
Master of many. I said master of many. He said none.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll break to that.
And my name is Jeff Weinreich, and I am the district trainer for Sunny. And I will also be the district trainer for Bob. And as Bruce mentioned, I was also president of the club and served in numerous roles. I also had been the Rotary Leadership Institute coordinator for the district and currently serve as the coordinator for the central area, which doesn't mean that much right now because we're not meeting in person. But we're helping Kathy and Renee with district RLI for this year, which has gone really well, doing it on Zoom. Let's see, Arturo.
Good morning, everybody. Arturo Barrio. I'm from the Camino Real Rotary Club. I'm a past president, and I currently serve as a district public image chair. Thank you, Sonny, for the opportunity, and very excited to be with y'all today. So, thank you.
Thank you, Arturo. The Martha Group.
The Martha Group.
I'm Frank Weber, past president, Martha Rotary Club. I've been a RILA counselor since Governor Tom Walker recruited me back in 1806. And I've been an assistant governor and a lieutenant governor and a lifelong friend of Jim Hatcher, and was a Rotary Club scholarship recipient in 1979.
Don't leave, Ray, come back.
And I will introduce Mona Garcia.
Hello.
Hi, Mona.
Hi. We loved meeting you the other day, Sonny. You're great.
Oh, thank you. I love meeting you too. Where's Rudy today?
He's here. He's on.
Oh, okay.
Rudy and I joined the Martha Rotary Club in 2003.
Wow.
We were trained in 1996 and joined the Rotary Club because the president was a Mr. John Johnson, and we had a lot of fun there. But Rudy and I were the fourth and fifth members to join. The club had sort of died, but I like to think that we have to bring it back. And we joined it because we are international people. And when I found out that Rotary is international, I thought, uh-oh, that's my club. Rudy served as treasurer of the Martha Rotary Club for about 12 years. And finally gave it up, and Rita's Avenda took it over, and now we have somebody else. So people don't like to get rid of, they want the treasurer to stay for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Really good. Husband is really good at that. He's a mathematician and an engineer. So, so I have served in all kinds of capacities. I have acted as hostess to many people who come to stay in our bed over the years, and I love doing that. I'm a natural born hostess, and I also have served unofficially as the events coordinator. We have a big raffle every year for a golf tournament. We only sell 100 tickets, and it's the most popular raffle of the year. And my husband and I are personal friends with Mrs. John Poindexter, who owns Cibolo Creek Ranch Resort. So I always get called in to do that and to help wherever I can. Brady and I are now 84 and 88. Soon he'll be 89 soon. So we are remarkably well and active for people our age. My husband goes out and mows grass for all of the surrounding yards if he thinks they need it.
It's great to have both of you with us, Mona. Thank you for joining us.
We're glad to be here, and I'm so glad Clint is here to help us with. I don't know a thing about technology, but he does.
I have to add that my mom, 93, won the Cibolo Creek Resort raffle. And we also have Learjet services out here, which we can extend to all Rotary members that are interested in coming out here for an event at the resort. They'll be more than willing to deviate their jet for anybody that would like to come on out here.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Rudy?
Well, he's not back yet.
He's not back yet. Okay. We'll come back. Nikki?
Sorry, who?
Nikki?
Nikki.
Good morning.
Hi.
I'm the immediate past president to the Las Cruces Rio Grande Rotary and currently an AG for Sunny.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Umberto?
Good morning, everyone. This is Humberto Calzada from Camino Real Rotary Club. I was the past, professional development chair, and now I am with the membership committee. Nice to be with you.
Thank you very much. Robert?
He probably doesn't answer that. It's Bob.
Which Robert?
Robert by the screen. Not sure if that was.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm a member of the Las Cruces Rotary Club, president-elect, district finance committee, and president of district RILA Foundation. I think that's all of it.
Thank you for joining us.
That's a lot.
DGE Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Roush. Good to see you all again. I was born at a very young age. And then in 2005, I joined Rotary Albuquerque Club del Norte. And now I'm the DGE elect, following Sonny's footsteps.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, and I apologize because I always get this wrong and I keep thinking about it. So it's Leah?
Yes, you you're fine, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. I am currently the ALG for the South, and I have served in all the capacities in my own club, Las Cruces Rotary Club, and I also serve as assistant district governor for Governor Gary. And good morning, everybody.
Thank you. Steve?
Good morning. I've served in several positions in the Rotary Club. I was a treasurer for the last 7 years and stepped down due to family issues ongoing. And I've been also the grant coordinator for the club for about, I guess, 8 years. And I was public relations before that. And I'm currently not on the board and I'm relaxing, enjoying this.
There you go.
Good to have you here, Steve.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And the other Steve.
Good morning. I'm Steve Westenhofer. I'm with the Deming Rotary Club. I'm a past president and currently an AG.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Steve. Governor Sonny.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sunny Kellerman. I'm with the Rotary Club of Silver City, New Mexico. And next year, I will be a past district governor.
Yes. Thank you. Past district governor and current Rotary Foundation chair and all sorts of other things, Tom Walker.
Morning, folks.
Hi.
I'm Tom Walker. I'm the District Foundation Chair. This is year number 6. And this will be my last year. But I'm also the Global Grant Chair. But the Zone 26 Assistant Rotary Foundation Coordinator for this district and District 5730, which is just to the east of us. But also the Council on Legislation representative representing District 5520. I also was district governor during my club's, the Rotary Club of Albuquerque centennial year.
And he's a mentor to the current district governor.
Yes. Thank you so much. Jay? We're not hearing you, Jay, and it doesn't look like you're on mute.
He's not on mute, though.
Right. Oh, it looks like he's about
Yeah,
to.
you might have to go off and come back on. This has happened before.
There it is.
There it is.
Okay, sorry about that. Hello, everybody. You better mute yours, Lee.
Yeah, mine is muted.
Yeah, but you need to mute both your speaker and microphone to not get the feedback.
Okay, will do.
There we go. Well,
Still doing it.
Can you just share your screen, the two of you?
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, there we go. I left the meeting on that. Two iPads don't work next to each other. We've discovered that just this morning the hard way. Jay Jordan, past president of the Las Cruces Rotary Club. I'm a member of the board of directors currently in the group that has to do with club image, public relations, and you know what we're talking about here today, trying to get things going a little better. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome, thank you. Carolyn?
Good morning. So I'm Carolyn Moore. I'm with the Rotary Club of Santa Fe. I am a baby Rotarian. I just joined in 2014. And I have recently transitioned after a few years as membership chair to the service projects chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's really nice to be here this morning with you guys.
Thank you for joining us. And District Rotarian of the Year, Jimmy.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, thank you very much. I was the District Rotarian of the Year in this past year, 2019 and 20, and I was also a District Rotarian of the Year back in 2005 and 2006. I have been president of the Northeast El Paso Club for 2 terms. I have served as an AG in the South region for 7 years. I've been a lieutenant governor for 2 years. I am currently the district membership for the South region, and my slogan is "Be Happy." Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Dawson?
Good morning, everyone. Dawson Dinsmore, current president of the Las Cruces Mesilla Valley Club. Been a Rotarian for 2 years. This is my second term as president. I was president back 05, 06, and have virtually held every board office, and I'm glad to be here this morning.
Thank you very
Good to
much.
have you, Dawson.
James?
Hello, everyone. I'm James Gerwells. I'm the currently service president of the Las Cruces Rotary Club, the Wednesday Club. And if I have any additional responsibilities in the district, I'm not currently aware of them, so they're not being done. In any case, here I am. It's good to see everybody.
Good to see you.
Great to see you too. Ann?
Good morning, Ann Allen. I'm with the Rotary Club of West El Paso. I joined in 2018 after 30 years of avoiding joining, but being a helper through my husband, who's been part of the club for over 30 years. Currently, I'm the VP and secretary.
Thank you, Ann. Randall?
Morning, Governor, Jeff, everybody. I'm Randall Aragon. I am with Club 1328, which is the TRC Rotary Club. I serve as the president, and I've been a president in my past life when I was police chief in Lamarck, Texas. And I think that's what happened here. They learned about that. But anyway, a board is one of my chief gurus. Steve mentioned he's kind of like stepped out a little bit. He's on a sabbatical, but I still need his help. And he's been a lot of help with me as far as advice. So Steve, appreciate your help.
Awesome, thank you. Raul?
Hello guys, good morning. My name is Raul Cota. I'm from Camino Real Rotary Club. At this moment, I'm serving as Sergeant on Arms. And I've been a Rotarian for 3 years now. And it is a pleasure to be with you guys.
Awesome, thank you.
And
Martine?
he's one of our eldest members, so.
Thank you. Martine?
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be taking this training from the road. My name is Martin Gomez. I'm the past president of the Camino Real Rotary Club. I'm serving as an assistant governor this year, and I'm the chair for my district. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Is there anyone I missed? Is there anyone who is not logged in that I missed? Okay.
Rudy Garcia, back in a little bit.
Oh, let's go back to Rudy. Clint, is Rudy there?
He's gone to get the mail.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So a few logistics announcements, and then I'm going to turn it over to Sunny for an introduction. This is a good sized group. We're not hearing feedback now. So we want this to be an engaging dialogue. So if at all possible, if you have a question or if you have something you want to add to the discussion, just go ahead and unmute. If it turns out that we're hearing feedback and we can't figure out how to stop it, then and only then will we shift to using the chat, raising hands, things like that. But let's see if we can keep it the way this is, because it'll be much more valuable experience. We're going to do some training initially, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms for a smaller group discussion. In between, we will have a break, about 15 minutes. So we will go ahead and do that. When this is over, I'm going to send out a survey. This is the first of 4 Be a Vibrant Club workshops. We, for the most part, designed this from scratch. And so your feedback will not just be helpful for if we do these next year, but they will also be helpful for the next 3 that we're going to be doing later this Rotary year. So you'll get that survey later today, and your feedback is going to be really important. With that, Sunny, do you have some opening words?
Opening words, my pleasure. Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. It's really delightful to be with you. Thank you so much for putting yourselves forward for this very first Vibrant Club workshop at an early hour on a Saturday. It is, I was thinking about this morning, and I realized in my long time on this earth, I've learned a couple of things that I think are pertinent. One is that no matter how excellent we already are, there is always another level to which we can take ourselves. And the fact that you're here makes me think you probably agree with me. The other thing that I think is worth noting is no matter how challenging things get, it is always empowering to get with other Rotarians, to talk about the challenges, to kick around ideas, to share what we see, what we think, to invent newly, and to steal from one another. So I think this is a gift we give ourselves, this meeting. And in a way, it's a blessing not to have to travel to, I'll say Albuquerque, since we're in the South, but I know that Bob and Bruce and Jeff wouldn't mind that, and Tom. We don't have to travel. We can get together just for 3 hours. And my intention is that we make this maximally empowering for all of us in a way that we can replicate and share with others. That's my pitch. Thank you.
And thank you for being such a wonderful leader, Sunny.
Thank you.
This was her brainchild. So by the way, when you do the survey, if you're unhappy, I'll make sure that Sunny's aware of that. Okay, at this time, I am thrilled to hand it over to my my partner in many ways throughout my Rotary career, Bruce Bortner, who's going to walk us through the basic principles of being a vibrant club. So for those of you who attended AGLG training this past year and PETS, you heard this, but it's going to be in a little bit different context. For some of you, this may be new. So we're going to kind of go through the principles of what it means to be a vibrant club. This would be a great opportunity to ask questions, share best practices. And so I'm going to turn it over to Bruce, and Bruce, just cue me when you want certain documents up and I will be glad to oblige.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. And good morning again, everybody. I'm just curious to know how many of you actually did attend either AGLG or PETS and did go through this training with us. And if you would raise your hand electronically, and the way you do that, for those of you who are not familiar with Zoom, if you click on where it says participants, I think there's 21 of us. At the bottom right-hand side there, it says raise your hand. So if you have had, if you've sat through this presentation before, either AGLG or otherwise, raise your hand and let us know. I just want to see how many people we've got. I see Jimmy, Laya.
My technology is not allowing me to do that. I don't know why. Oh, because I'm a host.
Yeah, you're a host.
Okay. Yeah, you're a host. Okay,
your hand is automatically raised.
Looks like 5, about 5. So the vast majority, or 4. Looks like the vast majority of us then, this will be the first time that we've seen this. So this is good. Okay. And let me get rid of that. All right. So Jeff, if you would, go ahead and bring up the Vibrant Club handout. And where it says Meet Our Vibrant Club, second page. So the Vibrant Club, what they got, what Rotary did is they selected a club, or they, I'm not sure how they selected the Club of Rochester, but Rochester had gone through a fairly significant change to adapt to the changing needs that they saw for their club. And basically what they were running into was lack of attendance. I think their membership was struggling. And generally speaking, and one of the things they mentioned was that the cost of being a Rotarian was getting greater because fewer and fewer employers were paying dues for people to attend Rotary, to be part of the Rotary process. And so they decided they would reinvent themselves. And so what they did basically was they rewrote their value statement. They tried to introduce creative and meeting formats and do things differently. Their objectives were to reduce the cost of being a Rotarian, improve their public image, increase membership, and boost membership participation and attendance. And they achieved all of those things. And a couple of things that they did is they varied their meeting formats. One of the things that they added, for example, was they called it a 1905 meeting. They didn't say how often they do this, but essentially, this is something our club that Jeff and I belong to, the Del Sol Club. We've done this for years and years. We call it a retro meeting, where the club splits up and goes and visits one of our members' places of business, and we have breakfast there and learn what they do. This is a little bit different. They call it 1905. This is the Club of Rochester. They call it a 1905 meeting, and what they do is they just split into very small groups, 5 or 6 people, and they just go to someplace for breakfast or lunch or something, and just chat among each other, and it's more of a social gathering. And that fits with 1905, because when Paul Harris started Rotary back then, it was not a service organization. It was just a get-together, it was a social club. And it wasn't until 1906 that they actually became a service club, service organization. They also made more use of social media and networking. They call it speed networking. I'm not sure exactly what that means, except to network quickly. But at any rate, one of the things, and that's a major change that we've seen Rotary, I think, evolve over the years. It used to be verboten. You will not discuss your job or what, your company or whatever it is at the Rotary meetings. But now we realize that this is very important, especially to our younger members who are trying to get their businesses started. And so network has become more and more important to our Rotarians. And that's one of the things that they added to their list of things to make their changes. So this is just what one club did, and Rotary. And one of the other things that they did was they relaxed their attendance requirements. It's right there on the right. We relaxed our attendance requirements or guidelines, and they said that they relaxed it to 50%. Well, I thought that was kind of interesting, because evidently they didn't change when Rotary changed the Constitution. Standard Constitutions was changed to 50% a number of years ago. So I'm not sure how long ago the Rotary Club of Rochester did this, but it could have been that they never bothered to change the old 60% rule, which was members were required to attend at least 60% of the meetings in each half of the Rotary year. That was changed, I think, maybe 10 years ago even, when I was membership chair for the district. So, but anyway, they now have relaxed their rules. I guess they kept the 60% rule for quite a while. Anyway, so that's the introduction to our Be a Vibrant Club. And Jeff, if you'll switch it now to the back page. And here, what we have is a number of tips and ideas that you can use in your club to make your club more vibrant. We're going to go through each one of these. Some of them have links to other Rotary publications that we're going to show you where they are and how to get to them. And so we'll start with the very first one up there. If we look at the top where it talks that start your club on the path to vibrancy. Okay. Actually, we don't want the clubs to vibrate. We want it to be a vibrant, situation. But so vibrancy clubs engage their members. This is their definition. Engage their members, conduct meaningful projects, and they try new ideas. This is a big change from the way Rotary used to be for decades. Rotary, they wanted to do good in the world, and they did, but it wasn't advertised very much. There wasn't much of an attempt to let people know what Rotary was all about. People could recognize the wheel, but they didn't really know what Rotary was all about. So that's one of the major changes that we've seen in the last 20 years as Rotary tries to make itself a little bit more well-known and hopefully increase membership from our 1.2 million, which has been stagnant now for almost 20 years. So let's start now with Oh, so one of the things we're going to do as we go through these is for those clubs and for the few people that have been through this before, and for our sitting presidents, I'm interested to know, are you doing any of these? And not only that, but what adjustments have you had to make because of COVID-19? I mean, we've all had to just deal with that. So if we start at the top, on the left-hand side up at the top, one of the things I think are most important, I know Jeff would agree with me here, is decide what you like your club to be like in 3 to 5 years. And so what we're talking about here on this particular idea or tip for your clubs to use to be more vibrant this is planning and strategic planning. So the idea says plan an annual visioning session and use the Rotary Club Health Check to identify your club's strengths and areas that need improvement. And so what I want to do now is, Jeff, if you can connect us up with the Rotary Club Health Check. We'll take a quick look at that and where it's located. And by the way, you can find all of these at Rotary International at the website.
Also, because I think I emailed out the Be a Vibrant Club brochure to everyone, if you have the electronic version and you click on those areas in bold, it should bring up these files also. Okay,
very good. So the health check, it merely is a diagnosis of, potential problem areas. It gives you, if you're a club president or a club president elect, and when it's your turn to be president, it's I think a good thing to understand overall is, how is your club doing? So are there any areas that need that need help? And what this does, it identifies potential problem areas and prescribes remedies before they become serious. And Jeff, if you can just scroll down there, let's see if we can see. Okay, here's an example about, this is your club experience. What you do is you go back and you check mark. You have your members check each one of these boxes. Basically says, do they look forward, for example, do they look forward to attending club meetings? Are the programs relevant? Are they interesting? Are they fun? That didn't say that, but one of the things I think is important. And so on and so forth. So the members go through and they check all these things. And then Jeff, if you will, and then so you'll see on here what the members, maybe if you have, for example, let's pick one here. Our meetings are organized, and most of the meetings are organized. Most members, I'm trying to find one that people might not check.
Members sit at different tables.
Well, yeah, members sit at different tables. Okay, so they might not check that. All right. And then, so you'll get an idea of, things to look at. Okay, scroll down a little bit more there, Jeff. And so here's then you get a quick prognosis, and it says, this first one's for club meetings then. And it talks about some things you can do. If your problem is with a meeting or with experiences beyond the club, there are some prescriptive items that you can look at and perhaps implement for your club. Let's do one more, Jeff, because there's a whole mess. We want to go through everything. The next area is service and socials. Things like our clubs hold regular get-togethers aside from club meetings. Okay. The Rotary Club of Albuquerque Del Sol, the one that Jeff and I belong to, we have monthly, or at least we did before COVID hit, we have monthly get-togethers. We call it for potluck dinners. Okay, and they move from members' home to members' home every month, and we usually do about 9 or 10 of those a year. Okay. So again, people check off, the things that they do, the things that they don't do, and it gives you, as the president-elect, an idea of what's going on. So for that one, the prognosis is, okay, so there's opportunities for service, quality of projects, social activities, and so forth, and I'll give you some prescriptive ideas, that things you can do. All right. So we won't go through the rest of all of this thing because it's fairly long. But basically, it has to do with expectations and whether or not these expectations are being met. Okay, thank you, Jeff.
You are welcome.
So this leads us up to the next point, which I think is the key here, and that is the strategic planning guide.
Give me 1 second.
Okay. Okay, so strategic planning, and by strategic we mean 3 to 5 years out. This is something that we teach in Rotary Leadership Institute as well. So if you've not had an opportunity to go through RLI and you're a club president or PE, strongly recommend that you do that, because we have a 2-hour block of training that Jeff does on strategic planning, and quite useful. And I think that it's something that that not all clubs do. I think some clubs think they do, and some clubs actually do have a formal strategic planning. So I'm going to take you through that real quick, and we'll take a quick look at the guide. So, and we probably stay here at the overview, because it really talks about the different phases that you go through for strategic planning. And that is, you start with phase 1. Okay, what's the status of your club now? When you think about strategic planning, there's really 3 things that you think about. What is the situation now? What would we like the situation to be in our club? And what's causing the difference? If you can figure those 3 things out, you're well on your way to strategic planning. But there's a lot of other things involved with strategic planning as well. So let's take a look. So phase 1, things like, identify your strategic issues, determine what your club's strengths are, so on and so forth. In phase 2,
Bruce?
Yes.
Just one quick interjection on phase 1. And I've seen this, it's a tendency for people to do this a certain way. It is so important to be open and honest in phase 1, to not be looking at things through rose-colored glasses and say, well, yeah, everything is fine. This really only works if you have that honest assessment of how the club is doing. Otherwise, it's just going to stay the way it is. So some of that may come from your members, because the members, if they're not happy, are going to let you know. But you also need to be open and honest yourselves and just be objective. As we say in strategic planning, there are no sacred cows. Everything is on the table, and it really needs to be that objective assessment and not be biased and saying, well, of course, everything is going well.
Right. And once you've accepted that and you start the process, there's different ways to do it. Rotary is just offering you one particular methodology. There's 4 phases. I always thought of it as 3. But in phase 2, the way Rotary looks at it is, once you determine your status and the fact that, yeah, okay, this is we've taken a good hard look at where we are now. We've looked at our strengths and weaknesses, and now we want to move on. What can we do to develop our club? So then you look to developing a vision statement. What do you want your club to be like? Okay, now we're looking to the future. Here we are now. Where do we want to be? Phase 3 is come up with your plan. How can you achieve your vision? And finally, phase 4, you need, once you've done it, and I've seen this happen before in clubs, especially ones that I'm the assistant governor for, is there's a tendency to say, after you finish phase 3, you say, we're done. All right, we've got everything, this is where we're going to do it. But they forget phase 4, which is who's be responsible and how are we going to track progress. So this is just a real quick overview of the strategic planning process. Now I'd like to know, would anyone like to share with us, any of you clubs or presidents or president-elects that went through this training or through RLI, and have actually done some strategic planning? Could you please share with us what you did? And I'd also like to know what adjustments you had to make because of COVID-19.
So again, just go ahead and unmute. As long as we're not hearing feedback, that's the best way to share.
Can we have a gallery view for a moment? Thank you.
Well, Bruce, I'm just briefly share the Camino Real. We have been doing that, and we're very grateful. Humberto has joined us today. We have done DISC for our our board for a couple of years, which has been a great tool. And at the end of my presidency, we did the health club check for our club, and we're in the process of providing that to the upcoming, well, we provided that to the upcoming administration, but it's a very helpful tool. We were able to put it on a forms. So if anybody would like to do it electronically, I'll be glad to send it. So y'all can work on it and just send a link and people can do it. And for us, it was really easy to capture the results. And I just want to thank Humberto for helping us. He's our master coach. So thank you, Humberto, for doing that.
Okay. Thanks, Arturo. Would anyone else like to share what they've done as far as strategic planning in their club?
Let me.
Yeah, Robert, Bob.
Bob, yeah. I'll get up there and change that. We have attempted a couple different times since I've been in the club to try to engage our members in doing surveys and giving us feedback of about what they like and what they don't like about our projects and club and so forth. And I would have to tell you, I don't think that worked very well. So I think it's going to be important in the rest of the year to begin thinking strategically as we come out of this COVID mess. We've been meeting electronically until last week. We had our first in-person meeting, and we probably have half the people in our club that usually attend came last week. So I think we're going to have to really strategically rethink where we want to be 3 years from now and work very hard to keep membership up and excited.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Anyone else like to share? Randall.
Yes, sir. As I mentioned, I'm president of the TRC Rotary Club. I did a poll, a little survey prior to taking over, and Steve helped me on this, Buckley. Our issue, in the summation, was a lack of structure. And we worked up a strategic plan. I could put it on the screen if you want me to share it, but it mainly involved structure and division of labor, and we have, as most clubs do or should have, a bylaws, but bylaws are broad. And talking over Steve, it looked like a good idea to develop a policy and procedures manual, which tells you, for instance, we had an issue with arrears recently. It just went on too long. People owing for eons, and just you don't do that. As part of our the way we should operate, we should be a shining example about paying your bills. And it bothered me. It really bothered me. So we worked on that, the board, and we got the people a payment plan. And obviously some people, maybe one departed, which was probably a good idea, because it's not a good idea to be behind when you're in a situation like this. But in the policy and procedures manual, which I'm going to have the first one, it's going to be like, it might be on dues, on how long you can go without paying your dues and what we should do, because it was like, we were flying by the seat of our pants on what to do on that. So it's going to be really structured, but it's going to be reasonable. So our strategic plan has a lot of division of labor and policies. And I think we need to have, because like I asked Steve, what's the story about this policy? He said, well, 8 years ago, the club decided. I said, where does it say that? We couldn't find it. Yeah. So now we'll have, I'll sign them. And, of course, they can change in the future. But until it's changed, this is the way we're going to operate. And, we can't just, again, mock snicks on everything. We've got to have a plan and follow it. So that's our basic. If you want me to bring it up on the screen, I will. If not, I'll send it to whoever wants, but I think we need it, and it's got all the issues that we've had in the last couple of years in that strategic plan, and we've already fixed some already.
Well, thanks for offering, Randall. Do you go by Randall or do you nickname?
Chief. No, Rand. I'm a retired police chief, and they still call me. I don't think people really know my name, but the thing is, Randall's fine. And but I really think, Madam Governor, I don't know if any Rotary clubs have a policy and procedures manual. Bylaws can't cover everything. It's real broad.
You're absolutely right, and we're working on one for the district now. Probably what I'd like you to do is send it to me, if you don't mind. I'd like to see it and be able to share it with people.
Well, we haven't. I'm doing the first policy.
I understand. That's fine.
Monday. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You first.
When I develop the first one, that'll be the debut of what's to come, and I envision something covering everything we should do and how to do it. Really.
That's perfect. What I want to say is how important what you're doing is in terms of creating certainty and managing expectations so that people are free to fly. You know, you can't really create or be vibrant as a club and as a Rotarian unless you have a place to stand. So bravo to you for doing that.
Bruce, let me ask this, Bruce or Jeff, those PowerPoint slides you had on there, provide service and socials, and there was another one preceding that. Can you send that to us? It was like a checklist.
The Healthy Club checklist?
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I can send those out. Again, the electronic version of the Be a Vibrant Club brochure, which we're going through, has hyperlinks where the language is in bold. And if you just click on it, it will go to the Rotary website and bring up the documents too.
Okay.
Yeah. Bruce, can I just do an amen to something Randall said a minute ago?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
And I've lost a lot of hair over this one, and you can see how that's ended up. At the end of Randall's presentation, he said, and follow it. So he was talking about the strategic plan, and at the end said, and follow it. And I cannot tell you how many times I have seen organizations, including Rotary clubs, go through a lot of time and energy to develop a plan and then not follow it. It's such a waste to not execute the plan that you developed. How are you going to know if it's working? And if you need to make adjustments, how are you going to know? So thank you for saying that. That's just as important, if not more so, than developing a plan. So
yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Just a couple of things. And I expected we would spend more time on this particular idea than some of the others, because it is so important. But if you're going to take the time to do a strategic plan, there's a couple of things that I've noticed over the years and things that Jeff has shared with me. And the key to that is buy-in. Is you don't just go off by yourself and come back and say, here's the plan, guys, this is what we're going to do. No, you need to have, input from your entire club. If everybody in the club has something to say or something to add to the strategic plan, that's buy-in, and they're much more likely to support it. And other people say, well, what sort of things should we look at? And as an assistant governor, I'll tell you what I looked at when I went and evaluated my clubs, and I was required to evaluate my clubs every time I visited them, and then give a yearly summary to Rotary International. And the things that I looked for were membership, Rotary Foundation support, and now public image. Those are the big three. If those are the only things that you have in your plan, you're in fairly good shape. But there's a lot more that you can do. But the point is, you need to delegate responsibility, and you need to then track the progress of how you're doing, just as Randall mentioned. Okay, very important.
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's move on, or else we're never going to get done here. All right. Go ahead, Sonny.
I know we're taking time on this. I just want to say, it's important, I think, to pay attention to your members' why. Why are you in Rotary and what do you want from this experience? And in general, the more vibrant clubs are doing that, and also focusing on both fellowship and service. Those are the key. They follow from the three-legged stool that Bruce was mentioning. Thank you.
One other thing I would say is you have to include and make sure you have a lot of buy-in from the upcoming presidents if you have them lined up, because these strategic plans are usually 3 to 5 years out. And if the board and the future presidents aren't buying into it, it's not worth the paper it was written on, because it doesn't transcend to the next group, to the next year and the year after. Yep. And we've done a lot of strategic plans, and my short time in Rotary, we've done at least 3 or 4, right? And they don't seem to transition well all the time. And that doesn't do a whole lot of good if it's a strategic plan. It's supposed to be long-term, right? 3 to 5 years out. So I think the buy-in has to be there.
Yeah. And that buy-in, that was very important as well. That was on my list of things to add here at the end, is that you can't have a 3 to 5 year plan unless you have a president-elect and a president-elect that buy into that and are part of it and have something to say about it. Most of the clubs, and again, some of the clubs that I will, when I was an AG for, they were lucky to have their president-elect figured out by December. Who was going to be the president-elect starting in July 1st, and they hadn't selected that person yet. And so how can you have a strategic plan if you haven't included the people that are going to be running the club a year from now, if it covers that time period? So that's another important thing about planning, is the people that are going to be in charge need to be involved. Exactly what you said. Okay.
James, go ahead. Do you have your hand up?
Go ahead, James.
My involvement in leadership in Rotary has not been, how shall I say it, that long. But I have been the president of the Symphony Board of Directors and the president of some other organizations. And I do have a fair amount of experience in strategic planning, and I've seen it go up in flames more often than work. And the only things I have to share, that I haven't heard already, which I've heard a lot of really great stuff, is it has to be a living document. If I come in as a president and somebody says, here's a strategic plan, 3 guys wrote it 5 years ago, or 3 people wrote it 5 years ago, and this is what you're supposed to be doing. Well, go fly a kite. I'm not executing your plan and having none of my own ideas, right? So, if you want to make it work, it's got to be with your board, with the president-elect, with the president-elect-elect, and then it needs to be revisited at least once a quarter, and things need to be deleted and added, because it has to be the plan of the people coming in, and it has to be a living document. Because what I've seen 4 times out of 5 is a strategic plan gets written and filed.
Yeah.
And if it's not revisited, at least quarterly and modified and gets new buy-in, and add another year to it, it doesn't work. So, I think some people have mentioned that, but I'm just sharing my experience in other contexts. So I'll be quiet. Thanks for listening.
And we just, Bruce brought up COVID. I would expect that when clubs who did develop plans did it last year, COVID was not on radar screens and things change, right? So at a minimum, a plan should be revisited when a crisis comes up or when a circumstance comes up that was not accounted for. So there's definitely times when it's important to review and make changes to a plan. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Some very good discussion there. A lot more than I was expecting. Well done. Let's move on to the second one. Jeff, if you could take us back to, there we go. And if you'll switch over to, let's see, go back to the Be a Vibrant Club document again on the back page. There we go. So the next, we're going to go left to right, and then down the page we'll go. So the next one is decide on your annual goals and enter them into Rotary Club Central. Goes on to say, focus on something your club is good at, make it something your club is great at, and then update your committees once a month on your goal progress. So 2 things here. One is, make sure that you are tracking your goals, but enter them into Rotary Club Central. Why do you think that's so important? Why does Rotary want to know what your goals are and how you're doing? And again, you can go back, Jeff, real quickly, if you go back to the participant view. Okay. Anybody?
Well, they want to know that you're going to survive as the club.
Okay, that's true. Thank you, Ann. Anybody else? But I think there's an over, and I may be taking a guess here, but I know I've got my own thoughts about this, but I'd like to know what you think. Why? The other thing is probably less than half of the Rotarians in our district use Club Central, yet we want everybody to use Rotary Club Central. Was it Steve, did you raise your hand?
I think it's got to do with creating accountability and for something for the club and their members to strive for, right? Something to aim at. It's like your azimuth of which direction you're going to travel. And without that, of course, you'll wander around in the woods dark and not get nowhere. So you got to have direction.
Yeah. So whereas in strategic planning, we're looking out into the future to decide where we want to be. What should our club look like in 3 to 5 years? Now we are reporting back. How are we doing with whatever we, with this particular year? How are we progressing in this particular year? And one of the things that Rotary for many, many years did not do was track what the clubs are going. What are our clubs doing? One of the reasons why Rotary, you go downtown and somebody sees your pin or something like that, and they say, "What's Rotary all about?" Why so many people didn't know is we didn't make, Rotary for one did not have the information about what the clubs were doing. They didn't have a method for doing that. Now they do. That's Rotary Club Central. So now Rotary can see just what good we're doing in the world, and they can tell people about it. Part of the public image, So it's important. But like I said, probably less than half of the clubs use Rotary Club Central and post their goals. And the 3 areas that I looked at, as I mentioned earlier, when I would visit my clubs as an AG, and then I would get on Rotary Club Central because there's a place for me to tell Rotary what I see as the assistant governor. And the 3 areas that I mentioned earlier was I looked at membership, I looked at foundation, supporting the foundation, and I looked at public image. And I reported back on those. And Rotary takes that information and they can then, they can get a picture of how the entire Rotary organization is functioning. So just something to think about.
I'm going to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mona, do you have your hand up?
I am the unofficial membership chair for MARPA. I am not a techie. I didn't grow up with technology, but thank goodness Clint Weber is my right hand for technology. I have lived abroad, have been involved in all kinds of leadership roles. And for me, the easiest thing for me to do is when I see someone that I think would be a member, an excellent member of our local Rotary Club, I invite them. I tell them, please come, we would love to have you. And they come. And Marjo and Larry Stiles were some of my invitees, and now they're in leadership. So I think that people really need to feel welcome. And that is what I do. I tell them, we have really nice people in our club, and our motto is service above self. And we have done all kinds of wonderful things, and including form an Interact Club down on the Mexican border, which was the first one ever. And it has been very successful. And I'm going to have Clint speak to that now, about that Interact Club. It is fabulous. It is fabulous. Go ahead, Clint.
Well, it had 2 paid school teachers by the school district. So that's the difference with that, was the dedicated classroom with a budget on the school district to have school teachers in that Rotary classroom. And we funded the school teachers ourselves. Basically, I created a fund for the school and we paid those school teachers. But also, I think that Mona had wanted me to say that when I was club president, when we had our club socials once a month, we ran our ads in the newspaper and had them in public places and in local businesses, and we could have as much as 50 or 75 people show up. And in doing so, I think we got to the highest number of members that we ever had, as many as close to 30. That originally happened in Presidio as well. But as you know, those things tend to die out. But the public image was the way that we wound up with 30 members in 2 towns initially. But keeping that momentum going is always the failure in maintaining those roles. And when I say public relations, it's public relations on steroids, and you really have to make it public, and that unfortunately doesn't happen. But yeah, our unique thing is that we were able to fund 2 school teachers and have a very active program at a time on the Texas and Mexico border with children, and that success 100% was because of RILA and the opportunity for underprivileged children and kids to be able to attend the program that were the children from that community. And again, we were sending as much as 6, 7, or 8 kids from one school and from one community, that there wasn't a person in that community that could afford to pay for that. So funding was a critical part of that, and we probably raised close to $30,000 for the Presidio program that one year. Dave Anderson was a major factor in that, and funding is still yet another problem. But I realize that district goals and club goals need to merge at some point, and these funding solutions can be resolved in one way or another. I realize there are so many other places that the money goes, but I chose to divert foundation funds from our nonprofit foundations to fund these programs. And they were basically outside of Rotary, paying for Rotary programs. And there has always been a failure on my part, and maybe Rotary's part, to somehow come up with a way that people with foundations that can actually contribute significant sums of money, $20,000, $40,000, $100,000, have to do that to make these programs work outside of Rotary.
That's correct. And I would also like to say that since I'm an international person, I've lived abroad about 31 years of my life. And when my daughter moved down to Merida, Mexico, in the Yucatan 2.5 years ago, she's a retired PhD of nurse midwifery. And we attended the oldest club in Merida for its 20th anniversary. So as a Spanish-speaking person, I'm fortunate that I was able to be there and present myself with my daughter. And right away, they were thrilled. We were like the queen and the princess come to visit their club. And it was a wonderful evening. And sadly, I didn't have one of our flags because they had run out of them, but now they have them. So when I go back down there again this winter, I will take one of our flags and attend their meeting. They stay in touch with me. They're always sending me emails. The young secretary, who's a very nice young man, and they did have a few women in their club, and immediately they started trying to recruit my daughter to work with them on some public projects that had to do with health, women's health. So when I go back down there this winter, I will take them off the Rotary Club, because I believe that we are all ambassadors of goodwill, and that we should always go and present ourselves at a club as a visiting in another state or within our own state or another country. Thank you.
Okay. We need to move on. Thank you very much for your input. Just as a way to wrap things up here on this part of it is that, the reason, the clubs are doing great things, but in the past, very little, if any, of that information was getting up to Rotary. Rotary now knows if they are going to make a changes in the world, they want people to know and to enhance their public image about what Rotary is. They need this information, especially about projects. What are the clubs doing? What good are they doing in the world? What are they, not only locally, but also internationally with their grants and with the projects that they're doing. In the past, there was no way to get this information to Rotary. Now we have it in Rotary Club Central. That's why there's so much emphasis there. So we need to move on.
Bruce, just a time check. We're going to take a break no later than 9:30. It may be sooner if we get to a breaking point, but at the latest, we will take a break at 9:30. Okay.
Okay, very good. All right, if you'll bring up the Vibrant Club again. All right, real quickly. So we've only gotten through our first two here. Okay, we're moving along. So the next thing we go down to number 3, which is the second one on the left-hand side. Hold club meetings that keep members engaged and informed. And again, what we're looking at here is, what do our club members need to know what the club is doing in terms of, how are we progressing with our strategic plan? How are we doing this year on establishing or actually achieving the goals that we set and so forth? And all this should come out in the club meetings. So Rotary has what they call a membership satisfaction survey. Jeff, do you want to take the time to go and pull that back up real quick? And I will say this about, one of the things that Jeff did, I think for a number of years in our club, we really did not ever poll the club to see if they, thought the club was doing well. I think Jeff was one of the first presidents to actually use this satisfaction survey to find out what the members like or don't like about the clubs. And it talks about, introducing the survey. My recommendation, if you are going to use a survey like this, it ought to be does something during a club meeting and don't mail the survey out because you won't get the results back. But you can do it at a club assembly, for example, because this probably does take a fairly long time. The steps are to introduce it, to distribute the survey, analyze the data when you get it back, present the results. That's very important. And then make an action plan. That action plan then can be part of your strategic planning in the future, and then take action on what you heard. Okay, next slide there, real quick. So I'm not going to go through this entire thing because it's extremely long. But this is to give you an example. The first page, the survey starts out with, there's one question that everybody should answer. Overall, how satisfied are you with the membership in your Rotary Club? Okay, that's a start. Then it gets much more specific. I'm not going to go through each of the pages, but I can tell you that there are 8 areas of interest that your membership can reply on or make comments about. And basically it says, well, as an example, considering our club's culture, members, and meetings, indicate your agreement with the following statements. The first one is, club meetings are good use of my time. Do they agree, somewhat agree, so on and so forth. You do that, there's 8 different areas of interest. There's 47 different questions. Now, I can tell you from my own experience as an instructor working for, and teaching and having to give out surveys at the end, if you have more than 5 or 6 questions, people are just going to start checking off boxes. Yeah, this is fine. This is fine. I don't, so what Jeff did, and it's a model that I think is a good one, is look at the survey. Don't try to give the whole thing at once. It's way too much. But pick out the areas that you think are most important for your club. Maybe 2 or 3 areas, maybe 2 or 3 questions per area, not more than 10 or so. Keep it something that can be done fairly quickly. and you'll probably get an honest response. If you try and do all 47 of these things in a club assembly, I can guarantee you people will just be, at the end, will just be trying to get things done quickly, and they'll just check them off. So anyway, the membership survey, though, you pick the areas that you think are most important. If you want to do the whole thing, you'll need more time than I think you can do in one club meeting. You may have to have a longer assembly, but I think it's overall, I think it's a great idea. You know, how are we doing? What does the club think, right? So have any of you ever done one of these before? If you had, let us know.
Bruce, can I just add a couple of points?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
So as Bruce mentioned, it's a very long survey, and it's a turnoff for people typically to get a survey that's long, that's as long as that one. The one comment I would have myself is that when I do surveys like that, I don't consider them satisfaction surveys. In fact, I don't use that term. They used to be called satisfaction surveys for years, but I think people recognize that you can be satisfied and still not be engaged. You could be satisfied with your cable TV until a competitor comes along that offers a better product, and all of a sudden you're not that satisfied. So surveys now are more considered engagement surveys, and Rotary talks about that. We want engaged members, and satisfied members may not be engaged. They may say, yeah, the club is fine, but how often are they participating in service projects and in fundraising activities and the social activities? So I would just say the survey is fine. I don't think satisfaction is a high enough bar that we should be thinking about. I think engagement is a better way to think about it. And what we're trying to do is optimize engagement, to have people salivating about their participation in the Rotary Club, not just saying, yeah, I'm happy.
Okay. So just curious to know, have any of you ever done one of these surveys before? Carolyn? Okay, and Steve, and how did it come out? Did you get results, and then were you able to make changes as based on the survey inputs? Carolyn?
Oh, I wrote down, I have to check on that. Even though I was part of the board, it might have been shelved. But for a satisfaction survey for our club, I think people are fairly satisfied, but they like to come to lunch. So we have a diversity issue in our club of used to be 108 and now it's about 78, and we get about 50 people on Zoom. So our public image is lacking because we're considered an old man's club. Nobody leaves our club, they just die. So getting young people engaged in an old white man's club is tough. So we're working on that.
Okay, very good. But you did, yeah, but you've got to start, and you use the...
You've got to start.
Okay, very good. Steve, did you have...
We've done that survey probably 2 or 3 times in 10 years, and it was always brought back to the board, and then the board made adjustments accordingly to the survey. But you were right, the participation level of who returned it, because we did the whole thing, was low, probably less than 50%. One of the big things that we found out was that the membership thought our speakers ought to be improved. And so often someone was scheduled to be there, but no one followed up with them and they didn't show up to the meeting. And so the president himself or someone else had to stand in. And so the membership felt like they weren't getting a lot out of the meeting other than just enjoying each other's company, which they enjoy thoroughly because they have a lot of fun. And it became a fun club, and sometimes the fun got a lot of fun more than I guess some people appreciated sometimes, because there's a lot of laughter. But anyhow.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, it might be interesting now, given that we've been, how long have we been doing online meetings and so on because of COVID? Be curious to know what people think about that and whether they think, that this is, that the online meetings are worthwhile. I personally think they're working out really good in our club. So But this is one way to do that. The thing is, just as a reminder though, you know, the survey itself has a lot of information in it. You know, pick out our recommendation. I totally agree with Jeff on this. Is you know, pick out the most important things that you want to know about, and then and you can do it more than once in a year, you know, a calendar year if you need to. Maybe split it into parts and do them as in quarterly, something like that. Just a thought. The other thing that we talked about, or that is talked about here, and the vibrancy in terms of the club meetings, is to vary the format. That's one of the things that the Rotary Club of Rochester did, that they found worked, you know, very well. Our club, the Rotary Club of Albuquerque del Sol, the only time we vary our formats is when we do our retro meetings, which we haven't done so much lately. And it's pretty hard to vary the format during, you know, this is one thing where we have had impact, I think, significant impact by COVID. And you know, there's not too many things that I can think of right offhand to change how we are doing our meetings right now. You know, it's online. You do the best you can with what you've got. And Zoom seems to be the preferred method doing that.
Bruce?
Go ahead, Sunny.
A couple things. First of all, I think there are ways you can make Zoom even more fun. And we have just begun to explore what those are. I think there might be an article in one of the last newsletters on some suggestions on that. One of them I want to show you real quick is the Zoom filters, which add a little levity to the situation. You can play games, you can do trivia contests, you can have different people do craft talks. We've got to vary it or it's going to end up being boring. One of the things I would like to see, and maybe it can come out of today. Oh, look at Jeff.
May we?
May we? One of the things I'd like to see is, hold on, I'm getting rid of my, is a list of ideas of COVID-safe fellowship opportunities. You know, I think we do thrive when we get to be together, even if it's just like this. But, you know, levity and fellowship are so key. And we are called on to be creative now in the midst of COVID, because we don't know how long this is going to last. The other thing I just want to say while I have the floor is I don't think there's any substitute. Oh, Bob, Bob, that's very cute.
Where are those? I don't know where
Bob
those
Roush.
are.
Bob Roush is wearing, I don't know, shades.
But where do you find those?
Oh, you go to the stop video icon and click on the caret that gives you virtual backgrounds. And if you have an up-to-date Zoom account, you'll see choose video filters.
Yep.
And filters gives you all kinds of fun things. This, I'll show you one of my favorites real quick. This is one of my favorites. I think it might be, because I've always wanted to be a bunny. Anyway, what I wanted to say is, I don't think Jeff's wearing a mask, Bob's wearing shiny shades. You see the idea. There are like 20 different options there, and you can start to play with that. What I wanted to say is I don't think there's any substitute for personal interaction with everyone in the club, even if it means you've got to pick up the phone or have an occasional conference call or send a card or get them involved in a COVID-safe project they can do in the comfort of their home, like making masks or sending cards to shut-ins. You know, we've got to have a way to have people feel like they make a difference, and that they are still Rotarians even in the midst of this. So let's keep looking for that.
Sonny, I always wanted to be a bunny too, but I never had enough hair.
Bruce?
Yes.
We should go ahead and take a break because it seems like we're done with that one section. But before we do, Arturo, do you want to take your picture?
Yes, please, everybody. So let me go ahead and close this out. Everybody come on camera. You
Wait
can.
a minute. We need Kathy and Jim if we can. Anybody?
Yes. Hi, Kathy.
Please join us. Everybody.
Erica.
Erica, if you've got a camera, please turn it on so we can see you for this picture.
And everybody smile. There we go, Martin. Thank you. 1, 2. Awesome. Thank y'all. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Arturo.
Before
Okay,
we,
so
Jeff, let me just wrap this up real quick. I think, okay, so now I forgot what I wanted to, one of the things, there is a drawback, something to think about when, these are cool things that you guys can do, but you have Windows machines. I have a Mac, I can't do that.
Oh,
It's not compatible.
I see.
You can actually wear a mask or a hat if you want.
Yeah, I could
wear a
go upstairs and get my aviator's cap on.
There you go. That would work.
Okay,
As well.
all right, Rich. Okay, so are we ready to take a break then?
Yeah, let's take a break. It is 25 after 9. Let's reconvene at 9:40. So 15-minute break.
Okay, thank you. See you soon. And you're
sorry. I was listening. RLI co-coordinator for the district. And I see some of you guys next Saturday too, which is awesome. And maybe even more of you guys. So sign up now or else.
Thank you. Jim, die. Jim? Oh, go ahead.
I am here, Jim Dive, Deming, past president. I've been cleaning the house and cooking breakfast and listening to everything. That's the reason I didn't get in on the picture.
Hi, Jim.
Thank you for joining us. Gabino.
Hello, Gabino Tavera, Camino Real Rotary Club in El Paso. How you all doing?
Excellent, thank you. Is there anyone that I missed? Okay.
I think this Steve. Did you introduce yourself, Steve?
I think both Steves
Yes.
introduced themselves.
Yep, I think we're good. Okay, so we're going to start the second half, and we're going to make an adjustment to what we were planning on doing. The discussion this morning was so rich that we may not break into smaller groups. And if we don't, during the second half, we're going to, as we're continuing to go through the Vibrant Club principles, we're going to kind of shift a little bit also into, given what you've been hearing and given what you've been thinking, what are some things that your club ought to be considering both for the remainder of this year, but also especially if you're going to be in club leadership next year, what are some things that maybe you're starting to think about that you would be implementing next year going forward? So it's almost like we're doing a little bit of unofficial planning while we're going through this. So that's likely what's going to happen just given the time. And so Bruce, I'm going to turn it back to you. Oh, Sonny, did you have anything you wanted to interject before we turn it back to Bruce?
Just one thing, and that is I'm hoping that we'll get to hear from everyone. So be aggressive and jumping in and raise your hand wildly. If you
And also remember that I can't see everybody. I can only see about 20 of you.
Oh.
So you may have to speak up if you want to, if you raise your hand and you don't hear me call you, it's because I can't see you. Since we have.
Bruce. That's good to know.
Right. And that's another reason why we're recommending that you just unmute and speak, because if we can't see your raised hand,
right,
Bruce will still know. So again, let's plan on that and only do the raise hands in the chat if we're getting feedback, which we're not right now. So
okay.
All right, let's get back to it. And if you'll bring up the Vibrant Club thing again. We're now under communicate openly in your club, which is number, there it is, number 4. Well, they're not numbered, but you can see. Okay, and it says share information at club meetings on your club website, through social media, check regularly to see how members are feeling. And the thing that immediately jumps out to me is social media, and more. And I'm going to ask Arturo here in a minute to talk briefly about the second part of this is the brand center, but Arturo is our public image chair. And I'd like to hear for his views on this particular area in particular, but especially how it relates with the brand center and how we can use that. So real quickly now, how many of you are, I'd like to hear from you about your use of, as far as communications, do you do anything other than social media or through your club meetings or club website, or maybe even a club newsletter? How do you communicate? Very interested to know that. Carolyn.
We recently, I would say in the last year and a half, encouraged a millennial to join our club. Yay! Anyways, because our average age, as I said, is 90, she has taken over our Facebook, Twitter, and everything else. And I tell you, it is vibrant now. I would highly recommend recruiting a millennial.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I highly recommend, you know, one of the things we look at from a membership standpoint is there's less and less emphasis on classification these days. We're so much more interested in just getting people. And in some cases, you know, the best we can do is let's try to get more women in the club. Let's try and get more diversity in the club. But we don't really think about specific talent that's out there. And the same thing happened to our club, Carolyn. And that is we inducted a millennial who ate, slept, and drank, you know, everything there is to know about online, doing this, that, and the other. And what a change that was in our website and everything. The website had been left for dead for a while because nobody really knew how to make it work. So anybody else have anything they want to add to that? So how are you communicating? Anything unusual besides the social media? Are we missing anything?
Well, Bruce, the Northeast Rotary Club in El Paso actually went back to Golden Corral. The owner of Golden Corral happens to be a member of our club, and his restaurant is totally closed, but he is having lunch just for the Rotarians on Friday. But there are, like a lot of other clubs, our membership is made up of a lot of older people. So the older people are actually zooming in, and our speaker is also zoomed in, but we've been having attendance about 15 people at the event. And our secretary has been posting information about our service projects on Facebook. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy.
Bruce, one of the ways that we communicate is through a WhatsApp group, which is how we communicate with our members, with our partners, and it's an application that is very used in Mexico and Latin America. So that's something though that it has facilitated our communication with different partners.
Yeah, okay.
WhatsApp. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Arturo.
Bruce,
I'd ask people to don't forget about the print media as well. You know, sending out press releases, get people's names in the newspaper, I think is really powerful as well.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
From a pride standpoint and also from an advertising standpoint.
Right, not only the newspaper, but our own district newsletter. Mm-hmm. It's fabulous. I don't know if you guys have been seeing that. Yeah. It is outstanding what they've done with the newsletter. Now it comes out twice a month. And I've been particularly interested in that because our club is heavily involved with supplying food to the Navajo Nation. And we've been getting terrific support and publicity on that, on what Rotary is doing to help out the Navajo Nation as far as providing food.
Bruce.
So go ahead. I hear somebody.
Yes, Randall Aragon.
Go ahead.
Yeah, our club, we have 37 members. Our population is about 6,500. And we have a Facebook site, and one of our club members, he kind of keeps that posted. We use that as social media. We have PIO. I just appointed a live wire lady to be our PIO. I was the PIO last year. Public Image Committee, and we've got, in fact, our publisher of our only newspaper, the Sentinel. She's a member of the club, and she's the president-elect now, so that doesn't hurt a bit. We always have articles in there, and right now, of course, with the virtual meetings, there half of our club meets. I don't know, the rest are just hunkered down somewhere. But the thing is, I really think we're doing all we can based on the situation, because we're not a big club, but we've got some pretty high performance achievers in the club. We have our school superintendent. She just joined. And so I think I think we're doing all we can right now. Steve might have some issues or additional things, but I think we're doing really good for a club our size right now.
Randall, don't forget to send your nominations for Rotarian of the Month to the newsletter. If you've got high-performing people, we want to know about them.
Okay, you mean the district's?
The district's newsletter, yes.
Yeah, well, it's a good idea. Good idea. We need to do that. By the way, I sent you and Jeff our strategic plan.
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bruce, if I may comment something?
Yes, you may. Go ahead, Arturo.
So following up on what Randall mentioned and what Sunny just said, we're trying to do a very big effort of making sure that people in the community are aware of everything that we're doing. So one of the things that we're trying to do is, one, recognize new members. So if you have new members coming in, please send us the information so we can highlight it on the Facebook page and the newsletter. And also, I was hearing to James, he was talking about he's participating in different committees, and we heard it yesterday in the district president's meeting. There's so much talent among our Rotarians. And I just came out with an idea. I know it's going to be a lot of work, but we can do it, of having like a Rotarian highlight of the week. So if you have a profile of somebody that you would like to share, send it to us, and I'll be glad to post it on our Facebook page, and then you all can send it, and we just need a small bio and a picture. You're talking about the superintendent. James was sharing the information about one of his past presidents that he would like to share. And there's a lot of things that we can post and share so people see that we're vibrant and that we're growing. Even though it's COVID, we might not be meeting, but we're doing things. So that's the kind of request. I will put my information so everybody can put me in contact with your public information officers, with your public image, and I'll leave it there. But honestly, we need your information. We'll be glad to make it, available and public.
Okay.
And this, just to say, this is part of my campaign to have us experience ourselves as a district, knowing what we're each doing, being able to celebrate everyone, feeling more connected, and being able to support one another in our projects. So thank you, Arturo, for all you're doing. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
And thanks, Bruce, for the shout out about the newsletter.
Oh, you betcha. I'm so impressed with that now. One other thing before we move to the next part of it in the Brand Center, and that is, I'd be very curious to know, is there anybody here from a club that actually got dragged in, kicking and screaming into the online meetings only because of the virus? Because I know of one club that did that in the central area. And they had to really, it's a club that I'm familiar with. I helped form that club when I was membership chair, and I watched. I won't tell you which club it is in Albuquerque, but I watched them progress and grow and adapt. Before it was hard enough to get people to come to a regular meeting, but an online meeting, who was going to do that? Well, finally they inducted somebody who knew a lot about online training, and off they went. But before that, it was definitely kicking and screaming into the, because of the virus. All right.
Bruce, comment on that.
Yes, Ann.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, all right. We weren't dragged into it kicking and screaming, but when COVID hit and we quit meeting, we let 3 weeks pass, and we realized, well, this is going to keep on going, and if we don't meet, we may disappear. So we started up, and what we found were people were just so ready to reconnect that, and our experience has been that we've we actually have slightly more attendance now online than we were before we went online. And I think a lot of that is, you know, people want to keep their friendships, but also we've had excellent speakers. We've been able to expand the base of our speakers. We're drawing in speakers from all over the US. And I don't know if we've had somebody outside the US, but we've had awesome speakers. We have one coming up this Monday from Bridges to Prosperity. The organization itself, Alamogordo Club, is really involved with Bridges, but we're bringing in the president and CEO to speak on Monday at our Monday meeting.
Thank you, Ann. That brings up a very interesting point. Being able to meet online, virtually, it absolutely expands dramatically the availability of really high-end guest speakers. Jeff, who did we just have at our satellite meeting Monday?
We had our Rotary International Vice President, Jorita Solari.
Wow. And not only that, we had people join us from Australia. We had people join us from Dominican Republic when they heard, and I think through her, through the vice president's, I think they had contact with her. Anyway, it's a terrific, you know, not only did we have a chance to have a great meeting with our own members, but we met so many other new people. And how often can you get the vice president of Rotary International to come to your meeting? Yeah. So
I like to piggyback what Ann was saying. I'm not the AG for the West Side Club, and I'm not the AG for the Sunrise Rotary Club, but with the Zoom, I've been able to visit all the clubs here in El Paso as an AG, and a lot of the club have been getting speakers from all over the world. I've heard speakers from Australia, Dominican Republic. I've heard from all over the world as a speaker. So it's really a great benefit that we are on Zoom. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And Arturo put in the chat that we want to share these speaker ideas, so please be sure to get them to him. We're creating a Speakers Bureau list so everyone can jump in.
So the last part of this communicate openly has to do with the use of the brand center, the RI brand center for the templates and resources that they have to create your own brochures and newsletters. I'm going to let Arturo talk briefly about the brand center, its relationship to Rotary's attempts to increase its public image. Go ahead, Arturo.
Thank you. And let me go ahead and, can everybody see my screen there?
It says
it's loading.
It's loading.
There it is.
There we go. So, you know, I saw this the other day and it caught my attention. It was super amazing. Evan Burrell, he's amazing on the public image. He says, don't focus on getting numbers. Instead, start a relationship, tell your story. And by doing so, invite the person. We don't want numbers, we want Rotarians. So for me, that was, you know, it just hit right at home. So let me go ahead and go to the brand center. Let me go ahead and share that. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Oh, I see what.
I've got it open, Arturo, if you want me to share.
Oh, that'll be great. Thanks, Jeff. So something that there we go. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. So something that we're trying to do this year, we want to make sure that all the clubs are following, you know, the different guidelines that Rotary has. There's a lot of different tools. There's trainings for your public image chairs, and I will be glad to guide them step by step if you want to put them in contact with me. We have the People of Action campaign. As you know, in 2013, I believe, is when Rotary started doing a big effort in public image. So they started the People of Action campaign because a lot of people were not familiar with what Rotary did. So we're trying to call it a People of Action, and that's the reason why we're moving from the, you know, from the wheel to making sure that we all use the same logos and branding. So if you can go to logos, Jeff, please, and I'll be glad to put the link for the brand center. You can create your own logos here, and it has all the different guidelines on the colors. Everything is really simple to use. I'm not how do you call it, an expert on systems, and I've been able to do it. So if I have been able to do it, I think everybody can. It's not my strength, but I've been able to manage it. It's pretty user friendly. And one of the things that I've seen that we're trying to move away from is the specific club logos, because that only confuses people and they think that we're multiple organizations instead of being just one. The other day I heard a speaker say that a brand is a promise. And you know, what is our promise as a brand of Rotary? How can we motivate people to be part of something great? So we got to be consistent, and that's the reason why, and I'm sorry if I'm bothering everybody with this, but if we can get information about your club meetings, even if it's a Zoom picture, that tells the audience and everybody out there is that we're working, and that we're here on Saturday morning, 7:30 in the morning, and we're working. We're trying to make things different. We're trying to make things, you know, just we want to make people engage, and we want to serve our communities. And we have seen studies that show how many people are using social media through COVID. So right now is the only way that we can reach, you know, you were talking about millennials, we're talking about the new generations, is how do we find those things that our clubs can have to attract the new generations, the networking, the social service, and we need their support. So I'm gonna probably leave it at that. And if y'all have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I put my information on the chat, and we really look forward to working with you. If you have questions about a flyer that you'd like for us to go over, we'll be glad to review it and make sure that it complies. And, you know, we want to make sure that we have the same branding for all our clubs and that we project the same image and branding. So thank you, Bruce. I hope I didn't take too much time.
That's fine. Thanks, Arturo. Okay, Jeff, if you can bring back up our Be a Vibrant Club again. All right, so I'm moving on down now to number 5. Prepare members for future roles to smooth leadership transitions. Oh boy. The two bullets, it says ensure continuity by making appointments for multiple years, having current, incoming, and past chair on each committee. And then the second bullet is conduct on-the-job training for incoming club officers. This is one area that I know that as an AG, some clubs did really well. Some clubs were always behind the power curve, as we say in flying business. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I spent 30 years in the U.S. Air Force. So sometimes I drop back, and me and Bob Roush are well known for our, you know, accidentally dropping into a flying language. So, so this is one area that you know, it's either really well done or it's not done at all. Clubs wait until the very last minute to identify who their you know, who their club presidents, who their committee chairs are going to be, and what's the impact of that if that's what happens, as opposed to knowing, you know, ahead. You know, if you're going to be, for example, if you're going to have a 3 to 5 year strategic plan, you need to know who the people are who are going to support that after your year is over. So I'd be curious to know how the clubs are doing. How are you doing in your clubs as far as, you know, making sure that you've identified your leadership well in advance and you've trained them? Ooh, that's even more rare. Anybody got any thoughts on that? James.
I'll take a stab at it. You know, I won't pretend that we're doing this particularly well right now, but one of the things that I've found that works in other organizations is if in the process of putting the strategic plan together, you're going to find out who your president is, who your, you know, we don't do vice presidents, but who your vice president is, who your secretary is, who your bench is, because they're going to be the people most interested in contributing. Right. And so the people, you know, you pull in your board, you pull in your club, the people who are most active, the people who are participating the most, those are the people that, you know, you want a deep bench, right? Because you can have a situation, quite simply, where you've got a president and a president-elect and maybe some other people on the board, and the president-elect gets sick, or their wife gets sick, or their husband gets sick, or whatever, and you need to have identified who your bench of officers is going out probably 2 or 3 or 4 years, and those are the same people who should be writing the plan with you. I mean, that's my thinking, and we're working on that right now in our club. We've just got our board up to full steam. We've got all our officer positions filled after having some sort of unexpected resignations. So, we're working on it. I'm not pretending we're doing it perfectly, but we're working on it.
Okay,
That's
very
great,
good.
James.
Anyone have anything they'd like to add?
Could I put in a plug for keeping an eye out for emerging district leadership also?
Yes.
Certainly. Absolutely.
Keep an eye out for who would make a great AG, because the AGs we have are fantastic. They may not want to stay in the position forever.
Right. What Jimmy Melver said he was, 7 years as an AG, Jimmy?
11, isn't it, Jimmy?
Yes, I was. I've been an AG for 7 years.
7
And
years.
you've been a lieutenant governor also, right?
Right. I've been the lieutenant governor for 2 years.
Okay. I got to be lieutenant governor for 6 months. I had to fill in for somebody who had to step down, just finish out their year. So, okay. So this is an area of, that I think gets glossed over a little bit, especially with the smaller clubs. You talk about a club with 25 people or less, trying to figure out, okay, not only will you likely see the same person as club president that, was 10 or 15 years ago, but, it's rare in a small club that you have a backup. In many cases, you may be the only person there. What can a small club do? How do small clubs handle this? Large clubs, it's not an issue. Okay, Rotary Club, Carolyn.
Carolyn, you're muted.
You're on mute.
You're muted. There we go.
That is not true. The large clubs, so we have a large club and, we generally hover about 100 people. Getting people to step up to manage that much money and that big of a club is very difficult. I mean, we scour our club for club presidents and vice presidents, and it's tough. And when I talked about diversity, no woman wants to step into an old man's club.
I understand. Hey, I got a question for, let me see who I got here. Who's here from the Rotary Club of Albuquerque? Tom. District Governor Tom Walker, are you there? No, his ship is there.
Yep, he's
So,
there.
He's there.
Hey, Tom,
Yes,
how many different committee chairs do you have? How many people working? I can't imagine, they've got, 100.
Last time I counted, we had over 40.
40 committees.
Yeah.
And
Some
how
of
many
them-
people on each committee? Yo, Tom, how many the committees are fairly large, aren't they?
Depends.
10? Wow. Okay. So that was my benchmark.
The Centennial Committee had about 50 people on it. Some committees will have 1 or 2. International Service has about 10.
That was interesting. Yeah, okay, thanks, Tom. District Governor-elect Bob, your club is not far away from that. I know you're well organized because I was your AG for 4 years.
We don't have that many committees in our club. Most of them are well populated, and I've always encouraged the committee chairs to be training their replacement that had mixed success over the years.
Yeah, very interesting. I was on Carolyn's comment about it. A large club does not necessarily mean that you are well organized and have plenty of people. But I would like to hear from a small club. Can anybody, 25 members, it's less than 30 members, on how you go about doling out all the different jobs that have to be done to have a Rotary Club? I'm sure we must have some small clubs here represented.
I'll say
Well, how big is
something.
the club?
Our club has 35, so I guess we're technically medium sized, but we feel small. And it is a challenge always. I think the things that make a difference are making sure the job is clear and concise and doable, and that people know they have a lot of support around them.
Right. When I was membership chair, I visited a club that is no longer, it's no longer a club. They disbanded. I'm trying to remember, it's named after a lake. Eastern Florida.
Elephant Butte?
Anybody remember what that club was?
Elephant Butte?
Up in, it's
No,
all the way to
Fort
Clovis.
Sumner.
Yeah, what is it?
Fort Sumner.
Fort Sumner. Fort Sumner, Tom, of course, I should have asked Tom.
Yes, of course.
Fort Sumner had 6 members. That was it. And I visited that club twice as membership chair, just to see if they were going to be able to hold, and they had at one time 25 or 30. Fort Sumner is really small. I mean, you drive into Fort Sumner, hang a left to go to Clovis, and you're out of town in about 30 seconds. Okay, not much there.
In El Paso, Bruce, we out of the Northeast, we actually had 2 Rotary clubs in the Northeast because some of the members didn't get along with each other, so they formed a different club called Franklin Mountain Rotary Club. And in fact, our past governor, Jackie Morgan Tomko, happened to be a member of the Franklin Mountain Rotary Club, and that membership dwindled down to about 5 or 6, as you were saying. And so they actually folded here about 4 years ago.
Well, I think the point here is that when you're talking about a small club, it's not unusual for one person to be the chair of more than one, particular job, committee. That's a difficult situation, but those small clubs, they make it happen, and
Oh,
if someone gets
Bruce,
sick or something like that, someone fills in. Go ahead, Sonny.
just one quick thing for everyone, no matter where you are on the playing field, it's extremely important to take care of yourself and to be having a good time. Because if people see you suffering, they're not going to want to be a Rotary leader. So remember to broadcast the good stuff.
Thanks,
Bruce,
Sonny. Yes.
if I can just interject for a time check, we've got about 45 minutes left. We want to use that last half hour to be thinking about what your club can specifically do as a result of these kind of vibrant club principles, both for the remainder of this Rotary year and also for next Rotary year. So we've got about 15 minutes before we want to pivot to actions going forward.
All right. Let's go back to the Vibrant Club again, and we'll look at adapting a way your club's bylaws to reflect the way your club works. Randall mentioned this early on, that they were working in, they were adjusting their bylaws. And that's something, I don't know if clubs realize that that's something that they can do and should do to reflect the way your club works. I'll just give you a real quick example. In our club, we have a satellite organization that right now Jeff is chairing, and they meet every other week, and they meet in the evenings. Our club, the Del Sol Club, is a breakfast club, but not everybody can do that. So our club then decided, hey, there's another way that we can do this, and we can have an alternative. So, but we needed to make sure that got into the bylaws. Once we figured out how our Rotary, our satellite group, it's not a club, it's not a satellite club, it's not separate. But once we figured out how that was going to operate, we added that to our bylaws.
And we do have breakfast for dinner, if you were wondering.
Right. Okay. So it's just one of those things when you make changes, because Rotary does give the clubs a certain leeway in making changes in how they operate. Okay. Just make sure that those, I think this goes back to the comment that somebody mentioned about, hey, 5 years ago, this is the way we did it. and it was never written down. Okay. Sorry, we're going to start from scratch, and we're going to create, we'll do our planning, and we'll come up with a new way. All right. So
I think something we got on bylaws you have to look at is how technology has changed and how you bring your bylaws up to the current technology, such as when you're doing membership and you're looking at whether a person's going to become a member of the Rotary Club and how that information gets to the board or gets to the membership. Where our bylaws didn't even talk about that issue. And a few years back, we looked at that and figured a way to speed the process up, because it was taking almost a month and a half from a time a person was proposed for them to become a member. So we used the electronic part of it by email to speed that process up.
Yeah. In the interest of time, thank you, Steve, on that. But in the interest of time, I don't think we need to look at the recommended Rotary Club bylaws. It would take a while to go through that anyway. But every club has the basic recommended Rotary Club bylaws, but you can make changes to them. Whereas the Constitution, that's not necessarily true. The only thing that you can change in the Constitution is the name of your club and your geographic area. But we do have control over the bylaws.
I would suggest, if you're revising your bylaws, we revised ours last year to do exactly this, to reflect what we were actually doing. But what I learned in working on that was that, the standard Constitution existed. And when you look at that, it's got a lot of detail in it. So our approach was, we didn't address anything that was already addressed in the Constitution, because that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, agreed.
Bruce, this is Randall Aragon.
Yeah, Randall.
Just kind of clarify, we didn't, the bylaws, we feel like, were broad, overall overreaching system of how you operate the club, but we're looking at a policy and procedures manual that gets down to the nitty gritty on A, B, C, D, E, like arrears and how we handle that. So I just want to make that clear. It's the bylaws, we're not changing right now. It's a rules, and kind of like a rules, military. I'm a retired Army. It's like a, Army regulation of how you do things specifically. Okay.
Important distinction. Thanks, Randall. Yeah.
Thanks.
And can I also make a recommendation? We redid our bylaws last year to incorporate, like the child protection and all the new stuff that came out, but took that opportunity to actually load that whole system of documents on Club Runner. Because one of the things you run into is, where's the original? Yeah. And we, to make it easier going forward, we're hoping that any changes that need to be made, at least we can find a correct copy.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. Okay, moving along. Our next area is developing strong relationships within your club. And it talks about find suggestions in introducing new members to Rotary. And I'll, Jeff, I guess this is something we might want to just show them, that there is a document that helps them when you are for introducing new members. Okay, and again, you have links to all these documents that Jeff has provided. And let's see, we're on number 2. Did you see 1, 2, 7? What was mine? Introducing new member. Okay, this is basically an orientation guide. And basically, how do you, what we're talking about here is, how do you introduce your new members? Our club has a red badge program. Many other clubs have what we call red badge programs, where they have a special badge that identifies them as a new member. So our older members, our existing members, know that this is a new member, someone that you want to get to know. There are certain requirements that they have to accomplish, number of meetings that they have to attend, other things that they need to do before they get their blue badge. And so this talks about, developing a, new member orientation program if you don't already have one. Are there anybody out there that does not have an orientation program for new members?
Bruce, I think we may all want to be reinventing that program in light of COVID.
Yeah.
Some of the things that were red badge requirements are going to be harder to do, but there are ways to get people assimilated.
Right. It's nice at least that you can introduce using Zoom. You can see the person. You can.
Yes.
Yeah, you can actually,
And
which is
send
nice
them
rather
through
than simply doing
Facebook
it by
and to the
email.
newsletter. Yeah.
Bruce, something that we did at the probably the last few months when I was president is that we had tried to do like full sessions of training for incoming members, and we just decided to break it in half-an-hour sessions every week. So 30 minutes on a Monday afternoon, 7 o'clock sharp, we finish 7:30. New members or current members everybody can participate, and we just went through a topic. Next week we did something else, but that's something that kept it going so people can get continuously trained from our club.
Right. I expect that, nobody does it the same way. James, very quickly, can you tell us what your club does?
Well, actually, I was going to talk about I was just going to second the red badge requirement. We should be looking at those because a lot of times they contain a whole bunch of things that those red badge members are supposed to do, like run a project, et cetera, that I haven't seen anybody do at our club as new members for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe my class was the last one that did them in maybe 2010 or something like that. And it just sets the wrong tone. So sometimes less is more, right? Have reasonable expectations, have reasonable goals, and set them. Because if you say, here's this list of things you're supposed to do, well, then first of all, you've intimidated them. And second, eventually they don't do them. And then they get on anyway, which definitely sets a tone of like, we don't follow through, we don't execute. There it is. I hope that was quick enough.
Rotary suggests that is one way to get a new member involved, is let them, pick a topic, pick a something to do for the for the club to do a project and run it, and that is the only way that you would know that person could do that is if you got down with them even before they became a member, and you found out what their expectations are. We always ask this of our new members: what do you expect out of Rotary? And then we tell them what we expect out of them, as far as attendance, participation, and that sort of thing. I definitely agree that unless you knew for sure that this project was something this person was really hot on, really wanted to do, that's putting a lot of pressure on a new member to go out and run a project. But
well, I have a problem with pressure, but we're not doing it. That's the issue.
Yeah.
They're not doing it.
Okay.
And that's the issue. Not that we can't have high expectations, but don't have expectations that don't get met.
Right. But the bottom line here is that we should have a plan for introducing our new members and getting them up to speed on what Rotary is about, and also the club. Get them involved as early as you can.
Yeah.
Bruce,
before you go on, Bruce, long time ago, there used to be a Rotary District 5520 Spur manual, and I don't know if we still put that out or not, but I have a very old copy. And what I used to do was, when I was a membership chair, that any new member, I would meet with them and give them a copy of this and explain to them about what Northeast Rotary Club would do. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that we kind of gotten away from that. And I know the West Side Club came up with an idea for their new members. So I like Fran talk about the West Side Club.
Right.
Well, we're developing it. We had a red badge program that has lapsed for several years. It was called GEAR. I forget what the acronym is, but anyway, we're developing it and plan to roll it out this year.
Very good. Okay. It's important that, everybody does it a little bit differently. The red badge book that Jimmy was talking about, we had those when I first joined the club back in 2000. It's never been replaced. It is way out of date, unfortunately, now. But it's important that you have some kind of methodology of getting your new members acclimated to your club. Okay.
Bruce, I am going to ask the membership committee for the district to gather ideas from everyone for a COVID-19 Red Badge program.
Yeah.
So send your ideas to me or to Jim Hatcher or to anyone you know who's on the district membership committee. We'll get that together and get it in the newsletter.
Okay. Okay. Was there one more person that wanted to speak?
Jeff wanted to speak.
Okay.
I'll hold off.
Okay.
Let's move on. Okay, Jeff, next item is to make sure all members are involved in activities that genuinely interest them. Yeah, here we are. And basically says conduct a member interest survey. Okay. You know, what are you interested in? And again, as I mentioned earlier, in our club, one of the things we do is when we meet with our prospective members to find out, you know, just what do they want to get out of Rotary? Why are they joining the club? What are their expectations? And then we give them our expectations of them. So that in many cases tells them, you know, what their interests are. Use the results of your survey to plan projects, and so on. Get new members involved early by learning their interests and giving them a role in the club. One of the things that we do in our club is we immediately assign them as a greeter. And they greet for at least 6 meetings, if not longer, so people get to know them, in addition to completing our Red Badge program. Okay. So anybody do anything like that for their new members?
We have people pick a committee to be on and do that right away.
Yeah, and that's something that we do. We start and that's part of the Red Badge program too, because when they get their blue badge, they should be a part of a committee somewhere. I don't know if it always happens, but that's the idea. That's the impetus behind it. Okay, moving along. Next, we're almost there. Next to the last one, coach new and continuing members in leading. Appoint a club training committee to oversee training for members. How many of you have trainers, club trainers? Raise your hand. Or not, or does our club did. I was a club trainer for a while. I don't know if we still have that or not. Jeff, do you remember?
I'm the trainer.
For the club?
Yep.
Oh, cool. Then we do. Use the leadership and action guide on starting a program to develop members' leadership activities. Do we want to take the time to show that, Jeff?
It's up to you, Bruce.
Left.
Do you want to show it?
Yeah, just real quickly, just show them what it looks like. Leadership in action, I think it's a one-pager, and it refers you to leadership and another program there on the right. It says get started with your program, download leadership in action. Again, it includes curriculum on all these different areas that you see over here: communication, leadership styles, mentoring. This is something that I don't know if very many clubs do. Formal training to teach leadership. I know our club doesn't do that. Any of your clubs out there have formal training to create, leadership training? No. Yep. Something to think about. As if we don't have enough, committees or all, but if you're talking about getting people ready to take on leadership positions, this might be something. Clint, were you signaling you wanted to talk?
Yes, I mean, we were a small club, and so we didn't necessarily have a trainer, but as a club president, what I would make sure that we would do, every meeting had a Rotary moment in it, where it would involve putting some kind of Rotary information out there. And so every place at the table for the lunch would have different Rotary program or information, and the same information at every meeting, but as much paper literature and everything was pretty much adorned with a table and a place where all this information was out always. And so we do that in Dublin, Ireland as well. So it's something that is addressed at other clubs as well at every meeting for that Rotary moment. And usually it can be someone, or the club president, or the sergeant at arms, or wherever they're standing there, and you come in and you pay your dues. That information, club media, things that are like for sale, little Rotary pins for your club for the visiting people when they come in. So it's not just new members, it's members of the club and visitors getting that Rotary information and stuff available to them also. Thank you.
Yeah.
I yield to the senator.
Okay. Let's go ahead to the last one. Oh, by the way, leadership, one of the things I think that's important for your club members to know is leadership does not necessarily mean we want you to be the club president. It merely means there are leadership positions available, a lot of them in the club, and then we need to fill those positions. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to step up and say, yeah, I want to be the club president. Not everybody wants to do that, or has the capability in some cases to do that, or the desire. It would be nice if everyone in the club did have an opportunity and wanted to be a club president, but that's not necessarily what we're talking about here, because you can lead in many different ways besides being president of the club. Okay, last area. Create practical committees for your club. Here we talk about small clubs versus large. Consider how you can contribute how you can combine the work of committees, and that's pretty logical. If you've only got 15 or 20 people in a club, you do what you do with what you got, right? And that may mean being chair of more than one committee. Large club, you create additional committees to get all the members involved, and that's something that I was alluding to when I asked Tom to tell us about past District Governor Tom Walker to talk about the downtown club in Albuquerque, because they have so many. I was also an AG for that club. I got to sit in on many of their meetings, and I was stunned by the number of clubs, of committees that they had, and how deep many of those committees were in numbers. But they have almost 200, I think you're up to 200 members now. So if not more than that. Just something to think about. Again, it's driven by the size of the club, as how are you going to split up the committees? So, and I think it's pretty obvious, how you would do that depending on how many people are available. So with that,
Bruce, can I just add one thing about practical committees?
You may.
So I think the first one of the 10 principles was to have a strategic plan. And the second one was to have goals, and that those goals be put into Rotary Club Central. It is reasonable to think about a committee owning a goal and a plan to accomplish that goal. So if your club is going through some planning and you've got a committee that does not have the primary responsibility over a goal or a piece of that plan, it doesn't mean they can't be effective, but they're not, by design, they're not helping the club move forward, because if they were, they would be included in the plan. So think about the connection between the plan that your club has going forward and the practical role of committees to be primarily involved in executing that plan.
Very well said.
Very good. Okay. With that, we are done with our review of Be a Vibrant Club. Jeff, I'm going to turn it back over to you then for the discussion follow-on on how we can.
Okay, was someone going to say something a second ago? I heard a voice.
Yes.
It was Randall. I just said, very well said, Jeff.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so we've got about 20 minutes left. Oh, yes?
Governor Tom might have a word he just surfaced.
Of course I've got a word. I'm a past governor. Building on what Jeff had to say, when I was president, we had basically the club broken down into areas of service. and then there were clubs under each of those. And at our board get together, what we ended up doing is each area, like the foundation area or community service or international service or club service, had goals. And each of the committees had to have goals. And then when you're done, all of the goals have to add up and support what the club's goal for the year is, or goals for the year.
Yep.
And if a committee has a goal that doesn't support that, then maybe they've got the wrong goal.
Yep. And if I can just piggyback off of that, when I was club president, I insisted at board meetings that the committee chairs that were present, when they reported out, they just didn't report out the list of activities that they did in the last month. It was progress towards their goals. So the whole focus of the meeting is, how are we doing towards our goals? And if we're not getting there, what do we need to do differently? Lists of things did not interest me because it doesn't mean anything. It's, are we moving forward? So thank you, Tom. Okay, so what we'd like to do in the next 15, 20 minutes is we'd like for you to think about and let us know, and this, again, we're not going to go into breakout rooms, given what we've discussed over the last 2 hours, what's something that should be considered currently for your club to be more vibrant than it is today, something that can be done fairly quickly, and what's something that, especially if you're going to be a club leader next year, what's something that you're thinking about now that you think would make sense to start working on for next Rotary year and beyond? And I don't know whether you all had a chance, or some of you, maybe to review your current club goals and whether they are still relevant in terms of COVID times, but we'd like to kind of get some ideas of what are some things that we should be considering now, immediate, and what are some things we should be thinking about for next Rotary year and beyond. So who would like to start?
Jeff?
Yes.
I have a couple things I'd like to throw out just for people to chew on. First of all, I just heard recently at a zone meeting, the line which stuck with me, that if you're struggling with membership, do more service projects. So I think service is a way to focus, and finding ways to do service in COVID times is one of our challenges, but it's very doable. The second thing, which kind of goes hand in hand with it, is if you don't have a current and exciting website and Facebook page, please put some focus there, because that is going to be one of our entrees to younger members. Yep. Being present there, being active there, and Arturo can help with that, can make a huge difference. It's like a business card used to be. And then just so you know, I've been making notes. I've come up with 12 possible ideas for a COVID-safe red badge program, so I'll be sharing that.
And Arturo, he mentioned it earlier, but he is putting into the chat the things that we're coming up with. So please take a look at that. It's a good opportunity to kind of remind ourselves of things that we're coming up with. Arturo, thank you for that.
And Jeff, when you send out the recording link, can you send out the chat as well? The chat notes?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay. I'll settle for maybe.
So ideas for immediate vibrancy and ideas for vibrancy next Rotary year and beyond.
Randall.
Yes, I like what Jeff said about the aligning the goals with the committees. You know, we just started, we had committee members, I think we did. Now we got a committee member, a chair, and a vice chair. And I like that idea that give them a goal, and that's not really happened in our club it's been like, you know, you're supposed to do something, but if you don't get there, what the heck? But I think I'm going to look toward that, because your performance needs to be goal oriented. I mean, you know, you've got to have smart goals, you know, feel specific, measurable, all that stuff. The thing is, we got to work to that, because I'm kind of building this club to be more, as I mentioned, structured. We were a civic club that was having fun only. And if it wasn't fun, you know, it wasn't good. So we're working on that. But I like that idea, Jeff. That was really strong and powerful about giving them the goals. Like we have 13 goals. I think that's what the new system is. And, you know, align those with the committee chair and hold them accountable.
Yep.
Carolyn, you're muted.
Our club is really project driven. We love big projects. We do normally on 4th of July, pancakes on the plaza in Santa Fe. Huge. I mean, we track 20,000 people. So one thing I realized, and we're still doing projects even during COVID. One thing I realized as project chair is that we don't post what we're doing on our newsletter. So that's what I'm going to do.
All right.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I got something. Even though we don't have set goals as a club, we do about 13 to 14 community projects a year and have every year, which touch every grade level in our school system. And we probably have never addressed that as a goal, but we do it yearly, and it's a continuous process. But you're right, it's not so much driven by the committees as it is by the club itself, and just asking for volunteers, and they all come together to get it done. People don't like to be on committees anymore for some reason. And for some reason, they don't want to put the time and effort into it. But when you have a project, they'll sign up for that singular project, and they all show up for some reason. And they have a lot of fun getting it done. And they know it serves the community. So it's not hard to get volunteers for the project. It's harder to get people to sit on committees.
Agreed. Steve?
I like what you're saying. Yes, I mean, in our club also, most of our members, they're project driven. They want to be there to do the project. They want to be there to do the fundraising. And with the COVID, it's been hard. The only thing we had right now, it's an APRA, and an APRA is in Juarez, and none of our members wants to go over there. And our fundraisings, they're being stalled. And because of the COVID, I mean, we used to have big fundraising, 600, 650 people, and it usually takes us months to prepare for each one of these, either the projects or the fundraisings. And so right now, I think with what you're saying, it sounds good, like a great idea. Just we invite the new members and all the members to join a committee. I think we're now, it's a good idea for the committee chairs to go out there and invite those members to go and help them in the committee. I mean, it has to be something to do over there, because if we leave them just for the members to join the committee, well, in my club, it haven't worked. They just said yes, but they haven't gone that far yet. So yes, I think if the committee chairs will help us trying to bring those members inside the committee to help them, I think that'll be great. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. Steve?
Yes, I think we need to remember service to each other. We have a lot of members and even some club leadership. They're under stress. They may have employment situations. They own a business that is struggling. We can talk about a 3-5 year plan, but that's not very helpful for somebody worried about next month. So as we look for things to do, we ought to think about projects that focus on each other.
Thank you, Steve. That's great.
That's a great point. Thank you. What other ideas do you have?
It's Mona.
Go ahead, Mona.
This has been really enjoyable, but I have a comment that I would like to make. I'm old-fashioned, And I have found that people love a personal phone call. And since I'm not a techie, that is my mode of communication. People love it. And I have gone through a list of old friends that I'm concerned about during this COVID-19 problem. And I call them and they're so grateful. Everybody's at home. They're answering the phone. So I like phone calls. And that is how I communicate with potential members of the Marfa Rotary Club and just to check on friends. So that was my comment.
That's a great one, Mona. Thank you. You're absolutely right. We need to be talking to one another.
Well, and especially now because Zoom is not the same level of engagement. It's just not. It's wonderful, but it's not the same as being physically together. So, and that's part of what Bruce was talking about earlier in terms of engaging members. Right now, it's a little bit challenging in terms of meetings. It's service projects go on and that's fine, but we need to kind of go above and beyond what maybe we had done before, because Zoom is not a platform that is inherently as engaging as being in person.
I think giving somebody something to do plays a big part of it in leadership and committee chairs, or however you want to call it, or club president. If you can give the individual an opportunity to shine, you'll find out that the committees become stronger, and there's always those certain people that will get things done. And there's also the person that's not doing anything that would shine quite well by allowing them the opportunity.
There are a lot of Indians out there if they have a good chief.
Jeff, if I may comment something.
Yes.
And I think I've shared this before. The other day I participated in a club meeting, and one of the good news that was shared by a club member, it was that they received a phone call. You know, this was an elder member. I don't think she had any family, but she highlighted the big difference that a phone call made for her.
Mm-hmm.
So you're absolutely right, Mona. I think we need to reach out to our club members, and they're going to see that we're interested. And this ties in what Steve was talking about, is how do we make sure first that our club members are doing well, and then we can look outside. It's like the airport, like the airplane. You know, you got to put the air first on you and then on the next passenger. So I think we got to do that for our club members. How do we make sure that they're doing well? So
I would add to that, you know, email is great because it's easy, but getting a thank you card or a letter in the mail has a little bit more oomph behind it. And our governor is wonderful at that. And I may not think about it consciously, but it does strike me as, boy, they went out of their way. You know, sending an email is one thing, but to go through the effort to send something through the mail, it just adds more significance. Other thoughts? Yes, go ahead, Sonny.
I just said that's nice to know. Thank you, Jeff.
You can send me a thank you card.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, I'd like to share an idea.
Yes.
And so, you know, we've a lot of clubs, and we always have concentrated on children, on helping children, and that's great. I think we can continue doing that. One thing that I've been thinking about a project, you know, being married to a teacher, and know that the districts are able to help them to a certain degree. So I've been thinking about COVID-19 and how we can make these teachers be safe when they're going back to class. They're not really being provided a code, for example. You know, they're just given a sanitizer and a real cheap mask. And so I've been thinking about a COVID-19 safety kit for teachers. I know we cannot help all teachers, but I think this will be a good opportunity for club to get together. I mean, we've been thinking about that for a long time. How can all the clubs get together and do a local project? To me, that would be one, and maybe we can only pick a few districts that are in greater need, and present it as an idea to the superintendents. It's something that I've been thinking that might not necessarily take us a long time or a big effort, but it can be done now with the current situation.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Martine, would you send something to the newsletter about that? Because we could all get involved in that right away.
Yes, yes, Sonny.
Mona, then Carolyn.
Okay, I think that we should investigate where we could get PPE clothing for teachers. It's out there. We just have to find out where it is.
Excellent. Thank you.
And PPE clothing, coverings like doctors and nurses, first responders wear. If our club could get a supply of those, we could see that the teachers in our group have those things.
Great. Thank you. Carolyn?
Our club just did a big milk giveaway to anyone who drove up. We gave 2 gallons of 2% milk, and we had hundreds of people show up for milk. Each Rotarian had a mask from Rotary that said Rotary on it. So my big idea now is that all of our club members, and we can afford to do this, we can mail them each a mask, not as a political comment, but just as a safety issue with Rotary on it, to have them wear it to the grocery store.
Excellent.
And I don't know where we got those masks, but it must be through Rotary, right?
Russell Hampton.
Yep.
Russell Hampton
is one of the licensed Rotary material.
I will include the link on the chat.
Thank you.
Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, our club just had a board meeting yesterday, in fact, or Thursday, in fact, and placed an order for 100 of those masks. And what happened is Sunny sent some out. Leah got a couple of them, and she's been wearing them around and getting comments on them. Another member of our club got one, and his wife, and they said, well, you know, people are really commenting on those, and so we decided, you know, that's not a bad public image idea. And so that's what we're going to do, and give them to the student guests. We're going to start having student guests come to the Zoom meetings, and we'll see how that works. I don't have anything to report there, but and we're going to send them each one of those masks. And they come in a nice plastic bag. Yeah. They're pretty cool. One note of caution, though, Leah washed one of hers, and you need to be very careful when you wash them.
Yeah, it fades.
Wash on cold.
Yes, wash on cold, and do not put it with anything that you don't want it fading in.
Don't put it on the dryer because they might shrink.
They did.
It did. It did after all. It was like,
hang them out on the clothesline and let the UV take care of the germs.
So we just have a few minutes left before 11 o'clock, and appreciate all the discussion. Definitely appreciate Bruce walking us through the principles of being a vibrant club. I had one thing I wanted to say in conclusion, and then turn it over to Sunny and to Bob for final thoughts. And one of my thought is that if you look at kind of how Rotary is setting the stage for us, I would say over the last few years, they're allowing us more flexibility to think outside of the box, to be more innovative, to not stay in our comfort zone. COVID is forcing us to think outside the box, because it is. But we should be thinking outside the box all the time, and try things, and don't be afraid to fail. If we don't try, and if we're not bold, we're going to be where we are now, which is losing members and continuing to kind of fade a little. So my charge to you all, as you're thinking about this year and next year going forward, is to be bold. Think outside the box. If you're going to go through planning, I would say include some of those new members in your planning, not the ones that have been around for 20, 25 years. I mean, that may be fine too, but some of those newer people, they've got ideas that people hadn't thought of before. And so I would just say use this challenging time and kind of shift your thinking from challenge to opportunity. Sunny and then Bob.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone, for this experience, for the opportunity to be together, and for the wonderful ideas you've shared. I think Jeff said a lot of what I might have added. I'll just say two things. One is that, as Barry Rassin, past RI president, is fond of saying, after 115 years, maybe we want to try a different model, or maybe we want to adapt and innovate to meet current desires and needs. So thinking outside the box is definitely what will keep us alive and thriving. It's actually, I would say, essential. And that brings me to my second point, which is what Simon Sinek, the author of Start With Why, says, which is, you know, we don't want to be waiting around for things to get back to the way they were. We want to be now looking to see what we can do in this new circumstance, knowing that it may last for a while and that we may never get back to exactly what we were. So let's invent the Rotary experience now that will enrich us all. Thank you, everyone. You are awesome. Bob.
Thank you, Sunny. Bob? Bob, you're on mute.
Sorry, I knew I'd do that sooner or later. I agree with everything Sonny just said. I appreciate everything that Jeff and Bruce did today to share this great information with all of us. And I wanted, I think, I like to think in the big picture here. And something I learned at my training with regards to Vibrant Club is, you know, we've heard about, Sonny just touched on the why. We've heard 10 hows today, but really the what is a Vibrant Club? And it was really boiled down to me at my training was a Vibrant Club is fun, it's engaged, and it's growing. And you found 10 ways of addressing all of those today. So if you can look at your club and say it's fun, we're engaged, and we're growing, you've got a Vibrant Club.
Awesome.
And one last word, if I may, is to thank Jeff and Bruce for their work in putting this together and leading us through it so effortlessly and empoweringly. Thank you very much.
And Arturo.
And Arturo.
And Arturo.
And all of you, really.
Yes. Okay, so you'll get a survey later. Please be open and honest in your feedback, especially given that this is the first. So we've got opportunities to innovate and change as well. So, and I will also send out a copy of the chat now that I know how to do that. So with that, have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.